What is happening? Good morning. Welcome back to Tuesday Training. Do me a solid, hit a quick comment if you can hear me all right. Everything should be popping. You should notice behind you, well, my layout's changed a little bit. This is a little different view than what you guys are normally used to. This is a temporary studio setup. As you know, if you've been following some of us on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you follow us, you've noticed well that we've moved into a new office, and this is actually my office within the office. As you can see, there's still some stuff that needs to be done. We're expecting to maybe be in this thing full speed sometime around February. Now, we're going to have a few occasional technical difficulties because it is new space, new thing, everything's new, right? So you're always going to have a few little items. So do me a solid, make sure you can double check that you can hear me now. It should be perfect. Should be perfect. Little thumbs up. But man, I'm excited. You know, new office, new space. We got paint to do in here. We got some rebuild to do behind me in that room back there. But like I said, we're hoping to be full speed in February. So super excited about that. But in the meantime, this is where I'm going to be streaming from until we get the studio built out, which is coming as well. So super, super, super excited. I hope you guys had a phenomenal New Year's. And for some reason, it keeps muting on me. Not sure why. We're going to try to fix that. So all new setup. Hopefully this will run perfect. I do know one thing. I can guarantee you. We have fiber internet in this office. So we shouldn't have any connectivity issues whatsoever, as you may experience in some of my previous studio. So get excited about that. But I thought, since it is the new year and we're all kind of getting back to our daily habits, our daily grind, if you will, our plans, our goals. If you made a New Year's resolution, good for you. And hopefully you're living up to it. So I developed, this is a talk that I've given a couple of times at some events. And I thought since it is a new year, this might be something that you would enjoy and can help you set the pace for 2023 to get you on the right track. And I've been in this industry for 18 years as far as insurance goes. I've actually been in sales and marketing for right at 30. I've been around a bit. I know one day my hair will probably turn gray and it'll be a little more obvious how long I've been around. But in that time, I have noticed that successful salespeople, doesn't matter what industry they're in. I don't care if you're in real estate. I don't care if you're in insurance. I don't care if you're in retail sales, car sales, whatever. I have found that there's basically 6 traits, 6 habits, if you will, that very good, successful salespeople, or as some people might call it, a salespreneur, have. They all seem to have these traits in common. And as I've studied that and kind of noticed it and tried to, do my best to emulate them myself, I wanted to make sure and share them with you guys. And hopefully y'all can take some of these. Some of them you're already going to be masters of. You're like, hey, I got that one covered. No problem. Maybe one of the other ones is one you can work on. But I wanted to share these 6 traits with you and kind of give you an idea on maybe some of the items that you can work on and really, again, set up 2023 so that you can go hit your goals the way you want to. So in regards to 6, good traits or kind of good characteristics of a very, very successful salesperson, the first thing that pops up is just having a winning mindset. Right? Having a winning attitude. And I know that can sound cliche. A lot of people are getting a little tired of hearing about, oh, you got to have a great mindset, right? You got to have a good mindset if you're going to go out there and tackle it every day. People get a little tired of that. And certainly mindset isn't the only thing that you need to be successful, but 100% it is one of the things that you have to have. You got to be able to think like a winner. And what does that really mean? Well, it truly means that it doesn't matter what obstacles are going to get in your way. You're going to hit your goal. You're going to find a way to succeed. You're going to find a way to perpetuate yourself down the path toward your goals, regardless. Now, some of us, or some people, I should say, maybe some of us, are born with a winning attitude. We just wake up every day and we're like, oh, we can do that. I can do that. I can knock that out. Doesn't matter. I'm going to kill it. I'm a crusher. I go, go, go. Right? And sometimes I watch those people and I think, man, I'm a little jealous sometimes because I am one of those folks that deals with doubt from time to time. And sometimes I think in my brain is like, maybe that guy just hadn't been slapped down by life yet. But who knows? But the truth is, yes, some of us are kind of born with that winning, go do it attitude. Others of us have to work on it and learn how to develop it. And that's certainly something that I've had to do over the years. And there's basically three things that you can do to really learn to develop a good winning mindset. And the first thing is you have to learn to focus on the things that you can control versus the things you cannot control, right? If that is a hard concept to wrap your brain around, just take a sheet of paper, draw a line right down the center of the sheet of paper, put control on the left side, put can't control on the right side, and start listing the things out. List the things out that you can control. What can you control? Well, you can control your attitude. Ultimately, you can control your work ethic. You can control your personal habits, the things that you do, right? You can control your effort. You can't control the weather. You can't control the leads so much. You can't control whether or not you get a flat tire. You can't control the weirdo on the road that gives you road rage, things like that. Those are things you cannot control. But if you constantly focus and put your attention on that whole right side of the column of things you can't control, well, you're going to take on kind of a victim type mentality. And that's not what you want, right? You don't want a victim mentality. You want to be able to think in a positive, kind of a winning mindset. So when you learn to separate the things that you can control versus what you can't, it gets a little easy because then you can just focus on the things you can control and like, man, if I do these, I'm going to do better. I'm going to get to where I want to go. The second thing that winners do is that they don't just write goals, they achieve goals. And that may sound a little silly as well, but it's absolutely true. I know a lot of us write our goals out. Some of them we achieve, some of them we don't. No big deal. And I'm sure that even some of the biggest, most successful people out there, they didn't hit every single goal that they wrote. But what I'm trying to illustrate is they don't just write out their goals and then go, well, those are my goals. Hopefully one day I'll hit those. They actually achieve their goals and they purposely work towards them. And when I see people that write goals and where they sometimes fall short is that they will just write very long-term goals, right? Here's where I see myself in 5 years. Here's where I see myself in 10 years. Oh, I want to go write, $10 million in premium and build a huge organization. I want to live in a giant mansion in the south of France or whatever it is. They write these big extravagant goals, and those are beautiful. It's absolutely necessary to write those giant goals that help you dream big and give you a compass, a purpose, a destination, somewhere to travel to. The problem with that, though, is that how are you going to get there? And if you don't take that big goal down and break it into bite-sized chunks, smaller targets, well, it's going to make it tough to hit it. And you're going to find yourself getting lost along the way. So you have to build yourself small targets, kind of stepping stones, if you will, that'll keep you on that path to hitting that bigger goal. Because if I can build a goal like, hey, well, if I know I want to write $1 million in premium this year, well, how am I going to do that? Well, I know if I break it down, this is how many calls I have to do in my year, in my month, in my week, in my day. This is the activity that I have to put in. So I'm going to break those goals down into bite-sized chunks where, hey, this is how many calls I have to do on a daily basis to write this amount of premium to check off. That's going to, if I do it day by day by day, eventually I'm going to get to that $1 million in premium. And if I focus on that effort, that makes sense. That is something I can achieve. That keeps me on the road versus just a big sign out there that says $1 million in premium, and I'm hoping to get there one day. Don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to get there. Nah, you got to break that stuff down. And what's important about that is when you make that repetitive process, like, hey, I'm going to write $1 million in premium, but this is what I have to do today. And this is what I have to do this week. And that'll help me get to this month. And if that month's good, then I can just repeat that process month after month after month. The reason that's important is because every time you hit that small target, every time you hit your goal for the day that puts you further on the path, that's going to build your confidence. And you're immediately going to be rewarded from that small target. And that's going to develop discipline to continue going after your targets, right? If you know you have to put in 300 phone calls in a day, and I'm just using an arbitrary number to get you on that path towards making $1 million, then every day that you hit your 300 phone calls, that's part of your check mark, your small target, you're going to pat yourself on the back. You're going to feel good, and you're going to have some confidence and know that, hey, I'm doing it right, and I'm getting towards it, and I'm going to hit that $1 million one day. The third thing that you can do to help develop a winning mindset is to develop discipline through a daily routine. Now, this is another one of those points that is in a lot of contention. But I do believe in a daily routine is important. And I'm not saying that you got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, go work out for an hour, and do all these other crazy things and take cold showers and whatever. I'm not necessarily saying that that is it, right? But what a daily routine does is it creates a successful pattern of winning behaviors that you can start your day on. This is a win every day. Start small. Maybe all it is like, hey, I just want to get up at 7 a.m. every day. Maybe that's the first little piece of my winning routine. Or maybe I want to make sure that I accomplish this little task. And I'll give you a silly example. And I'll pick on myself. I don't have the prettiest teeth in the world. I'll just be honest with you. But I have a goal to have a little bit better teeth. And how do I better take care of them? Well, part of my daily routine is I make sure that I now brush with that charcoal. So I brush my teeth twice a day now, right, as one of my items. And I use that charcoal stuff to help whiten them and get them looking a little better, right? Spent a lot of years in my younger time smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee, drinking tea, and my teeth have certainly some stain to them, but I'm trying to fix that. So part of my thing is like, hey, every day when I wake up, I want to make sure that I take time to brush my teeth with charcoal. If I do that and I develop that through a daily routine, every time I do that, I feel good. I feel confident. I feel like I'm on the right track and I'm going to, again, hit that goal. So it kind of goes back to that first thing that we said of write and achieve big goals that'll put you on the path, or write and achieve those small targets. To put you on the path to a bigger one. So I hope that makes sense in regards to a winning attitude. But that's number one trait of a successful salesperson. The second one is to be an effective communicator. You got to be a good communicator, right? And when I originally went to college, I went to college at University of Houston. I studied communication, and I learned that the very simple definition of communication is the exchange of information between one person to another, or between two entities, if you will, right? It's basically just a transmission of a signal. And if you think about it from a radio standpoint, if any of you are as old as I am, and you remember the old days where you had the dial AM, FM radio as you're going through it, right? You have static, and you're trying to get it dialed in, and then all of a sudden you get it nice and crisp. Right. And that signal is clear as a bell. You can hear it. You know exactly what that person's saying. There's no static. There's no weird stuff going on. It's crystal clear. You want your communication to be the same way. When you're communicating with someone, particularly in a business setting, if you want to just jabberjaw with your friends and have fun, that's a different thing. But when it comes to doing business and getting it moved, you need to have efficient, good, clear, concise communication. Period. You don't want any noise on top of it. So, for example, this has probably happened to you as well. Maybe you've had a customer, right, or a client or an agent or someone that's called you on the phone, and they have a purpose for why they're calling, but they go through about a 10-minute diatribe of nonsense, right, of all this precursor preface of information before they even get to the question or the real point of their phone call. Well, that's basically noise. And I'm not talking about getting to know you and building rapport and some of those details. I am just talking about all of that noise and just unnecessary information that they layer on top of their message, that all it does is dilute the message. And ultimately, you start to tune them out. You're like, man, I just wish this dude would get to the point. Can you please just ask me your question? Just please ask me your question so I can get off the phone with you. But they don't. They keep going on and on. Well, Fred said this and John said that, and then he said that and did that. And none of that is necessary to the cursor of the message. But the key is, if you can't communicate well and you can't communicate clear and concise, right, your clients aren't going to understand the products and services that you're portraying to them, right? The resolutions or the solutions that you're trying to solve for them. Your team members won't be able to understand where they're headed as a team in the organization. If you can't lead your team through effective communication to express your purpose, your vision, your drive for the organization, well, they're not going to know how they fit into that either. And they're going to be just as confused because they're surrounded by noise. So very simple solutions. Learn how to tighten up your communication. I've talked about this before. There's 5 steps. There's basically 5 pieces that go through an arc in how people communicate, basically how a story is told. And I'm not talking fictional movie stories with the plot and the climax and the denouement. I'm talking the simple delivery of a message, right? Whether it's an elevator pitch, or I'm running a meeting for an organization, or I'm giving a talk like this, or I'm doing a seminar, doesn't matter. Sales pitch, script, presentation. There's basically 5 items that you have to tick through. And if you do it, every single conversation, if you pay attention to this, every conversation runs through this 5-step arc, and it's very simple, right? And this doesn't matter if you're meeting someone for the first time in a networking event or running an event, or you want to write your own script. If you follow these 5 principles to build your conversation, whether it's a sales pitch or whatever, you're going to find that you can keep a crisp, simple communication delivery. First thing is a simple introduction. Hi, Betty. My name's Tony, right? That's it. Introduction is step one. Step two is a short story. Why are you here? Why am I calling you? Why am I speaking to you? Right? Third one is your presentation. That's where you actually explain your products, your solutions, and you present the meat of the conversation. This is maybe where you're asking your real questions on that short phone call that you might have, whatever it may be. The presentation is the biggest portion of it. That's where most of the dialogue is going to happen between you and the other party. The fourth is a simple close. We all know how to close, right? We're all in sales. We know closers. So that's the ending of the conversation. The fifth step is just the rehash. Hey, it's a reminder. It's the schedule for the next meeting. It's the add-on product. It's any of those things, right? But it's very simple. I've talked about this before, and I'll talk about it more in depth. I don't want to get into super in depth on this call because I got more to talk about. But very simple, 5 steps to a conversation is your introduction, short story, presentation, close, and rehash. Every conversation, I promise you, follows those 5 steps and it's done properly. Every conversation. Call your friend and talk to him. Go meet somebody new today. Listen to how that conversation moves, and you'll see, oh, wow, it does. It flows that exact 5-step arc. Guaranteed every time. If you learn those 5 steps, write them down. If you learn those 5 steps, you will be a good communicator, I promise. The third trait of an outstanding salesperson is that they have to be a good student. You have to always remain to be a good student. You have to maintain a student mentality, right? The first key to that is you got to learn to let go of your ego and just be humble. I see this a lot of times at events. If y'all that know me, you know I like to go out and do events, right? I'm speaking at events. I'm attending events. This is where I get to spend a lot of time with my colleagues, the people in the business, people I love to be around, and I get to elevate my game. When I'm talking about events, I'll see people show up and they're hanging on to their ego still while they're at the event. Right? They're hanging on to all those preconceptions, those judgments, those preconceived notions, right? Because they already know how to do it, but they're coming to an event for some reason. But they'll sit there in the audience with their arms folded. I already know all this stuff. I'm Joe, salesperson. I don't need to learn anything new. Well, you're not being a good student that way, right? If you're out there with all your preconceived notions and your judgments and your conceptions with no open mind, and you're got a head full of ego, well, nobody's going to be able to pour into you. Nobody's going to be able to teach you anything. Your cup is full. And if you have a full cup, we can't pour anything else into it. But you have to learn to let go of your ego for a bit, be humble so that you can learn new information, because you'll never learn any new information if you don't. Second thing is you got to do is just set time aside to study your craft. So number one, let go of your ego. Number two, set aside time to study your craft. Whether it's reading books, whether it's looking at good YouTube videos that are going to help you on sales or marketing or whatever little skill set is that you want to learn, set aside time to study your craft. It's such an important trait. It's such an important lesson. Stephen Covey, if you know Stephen Covey, he wrote a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Studying your craft, he wrote it as sharpen the saw. It's one of the most important habits. Regardless of how sharp you are, you can always be a little sharper. There's even an old saying from, I believe it was something that Abraham Lincoln said, if I remember correctly, and this may be an old myth, but it basically said, hey, if I gave you 5 hours to chop down that tree, Abraham Lincoln, how would you go about it? So like, well, I'd spend the first 4 hours sharpening my axe, and then I would knock out the tree. Same thing for us. Right? We have to constantly sharpen ourselves and study our craft so that we can get better, right? Again, maybe you're role playing with other people in your office. That's another example of sharpening your saw and your craft. Football players, they practice 5 days a week. They play 1 day a week. Think about that for a second. Basketball players, same thing. They're only performing for about 90 minutes in a day. But the other 5 days of the week, they're practicing. They're studying their craft. They're sharpening their saw to get ready for that moment. But we are so egotistical to think that, I don't need to learn anything. I'm good. I don't need to practice. I don't need to role play. I don't need to study. I don't need to read. I don't need to put in the repetitions. No, you need to, or you're not going to improve your skill set, and you will forever just plateau off. So excellent salespeople, super successful salespeople are always studying their craft. They're setting that side of time, right? And then finally, the third piece to being a good student is you apply the new skills that you learn, right? So number one, you got to let go of your ego. Number two, you got to set aside time to study. And number three, you actually take time to apply the skills that you learn, put them into play, test them, break them, bend them, warp them, try them again, do them over. And then you repeat that process. It's a very simple thing, but if you follow those three rules, you can learn to be a good student, right? And I'll say them again. Number one, let go of your ego. Empty your preconceived mind of everything you think you already know. Set aside time to study your craft and then apply the new skills that you learn. Now, the fourth trait of successful salespeople is they are outstanding at time management, man. I have never seen people so good at time management as some of the sharpest, most highly productive salespeople out there. They squeeze every ounce of effort out of every second, every minute, every hour, every week, every month, every year that they can. They are always being productive and moving the needle forward. So if you want to be good at time management, primary things you got to do, again, three simple things you got to do. Number one, create an organized schedule for yourself. This is something I had to learn the hard way because for a while I was very good. And then as the world has gotten more complicated with technology and everything, I had to really get down to creating a schedule for how my day runs. Because if I'm not running my day, well, my day runs me. So I want to approach my day in a proactive manner. I know exactly what I'm doing, when I'm doing. I have a schedule, I have a calendar, and I'm following it to the best of my ability. Because if I don't, well, then I'm going to be reactive to my day the entire time. I'm not going to be able to be proactive. And again, my day is going to end up running me. Have you ever been working and then maybe it's around 3 o'clock and you look down in the afternoon, you're like, holy crap, it's already 3 o'clock. And I still have to do this and this and this and this. Man, where is the day gone? I just don't have the time. I just don't have the time. There's not enough time. Well, the reason there's not enough time is because you're not following a schedule to do your task effectively in the right manner. But if you follow a simple schedule, you can organize your day and you can run your day and not let your day run you. And you will always be proactive and you will get the most out of every single day. There's a lot of great scheduling apps out there. I just use Google Calendars, works great for me. I have a few other task items that I use as well. But create a schedule, follow it. And you got to have the discipline to follow it. The second thing you can do to be great at time management is to batch your tasks into like groups. You're like, what do you mean, Tony? Well, for example, right? If you're a salesperson like we all are, then part of the thing we have to do, for example, is prospecting, right? A lot of people don't like to do it, but we got to prospect. There's a million other things we got to do as well. But what I'm really trying to say is if you take the like tasks that you have to complete in the entire day, put them into time blocks, right? So for example, if I know I got to make 100 phone calls today as part of my prospecting efforts, then I'm going to block out a set of time. This is all I'm doing. Everything else is off. The email is off. Facebook is off. My cell phone is off, or maybe I'm calling on my cell phone, whatever it is. But if I know that like I have to get this done as part of my goal setting, as part of my task to get on my path, then I want to block it off so I can nail it and do it. And the reason that works so well is not only am I blocking it off in a way that I can be undisturbed and be focused, but when you're doing the same task over and over and over again, if I'm prospecting for the same product, right, over and over, or whatever it may be, maybe I'm doing follow-up calls, maybe I'm doing customer retention calls, maybe these are cross-marketing calls, maybe I'm just doing thank you cards. Doesn't matter, but put them into put them into a time block to do them over and over. The reason it works is because you will get on a roll and you will perform it better and better and better, right? If I make a prospecting call right now, and then I get up and I go over there and I do something different, and then I take a different phone call, and then I surf Facebook for a minute, and then I come back over here, and then I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I guess it's time to make another prospecting call. That second prospecting call is going to suck as bad or worse as the first one. But if I can do one after the next, after the next, after the next, by the time, man, I'm going to get into a rhythm. I'm going to have a really good cadence to how I'm knocking these out. I'm also going to build confidence. Because one of those prospecting calls is going to go really good, and I'm going to take that juice and I'm going to move it on to the next one, and then the next one. And before you know it, shoot, my 3 hours of prospecting are up, and I did 120 calls. I did more than I need to, and now I got follow-ups to do, and boom, and there's that time block, and let's block those out and let's do them. So it gives you the ability to not only do more work in a shorter period of time, but you will do a better job of that work because you're repetitive and you're doing over and over and over, and you're building a rhythm and a cadence, and you're getting yourself on a roll. The third thing you can do to master your time is to delegate. Find the things that you don't need to be doing and get them off your plate, right? There's a million people out there, virtual assistants, etc., that will allow you to delegate things to them. I promise you, you could almost delegate the entire business and just sit back and watch the whole thing happen. I've seen people get pretty close to that. Joe Campert, as a matter of fact, is phenomenal at using virtual assistants to help him run his business. Super productive, super good at it. What to delegate? That's where the question that most people get stuck on. Well, delegate your inefficiencies first. What are the things you suck at? I'm not really good at writing thank you cards. I don't want to write thank you cards. I don't have time to write thank you cards. So I'm going to delegate it to send notes or whatever that one is that Pete Fournier turned me on to. There's a few of them out there, right? I don't like setting all my own appointments. So I have a virtual assistant that sets appointments for me. Think about your inefficiencies, delegate those first, right? It's kind of like I don't know if I'd call it the small stuff, right? Some of them might be small tasks that we shouldn't be doing because we should be always talking to customers, closing business, and generating revenue. But ultimately, you want to find the little things that you shouldn't be doing that are too low in value for you to be performing them. Ultimately, you're just not good at them. And if you're not good at something, learn it. But ultimately, if it's not that task that's valuable, get it off your plate. Delegate it to someone that can. Absolutely. And again, there is no shortage of people to delegate to. I remember listening to Ramiz Hakim. If you don't know Ramiz Hakim, he built one of the largest final expense call centers in the world. I can't remember how many hundreds of seats are in that thing. He recently sold it a few years ago, or so at least sold his share of it and sold it to his brother. But when he started, he worked in his basement. He was the salesperson. His mom was his appointment setter, and his brother did his customer service calls, his retention calls, policy deliveries, things like that. Right? He didn't pay him anything. He's like, hey, y'all are helping me out. So be creative when you're delegating things. Maybe you do have to find some family members to help you out. Maybe you have a friend. Maybe you have a friend with a kid, a high school kid that can help you out with some items, and you can pay him just a little cheese to help him get it done. Or maybe it's a bigger deal and you need a professional virtual assistant to do it for you. Or maybe you're at the point you need to hire someone in-house to come do that job for you. Whatever it is, find a way to delegate to give yourself more time to focus on income-producing activities, right? And that's going to help you be a master of time. So master of time is, again, 3 things. Number 1, create yourself an organized schedule. Create an organized schedule. That's going to help you run your day versus let your day run you. Second, batch your light tasks into time blocks so that you can effectively knock them out more efficiently and at a higher rate. And then number 3, delegate the small stuff. Delegate your inefficiencies, get them off your plate so that you can focus on income-producing activities. The 5th item is you got to be a great networker, right? So the 5th trait of successful salespeople is they're outstanding networkers. And that don't just mean they have a whole bunch of friends and they're really good at going out and being sociable and stuff like that. I am talking they are very sharp at who they network with, why they network, and the people that they assemble around them, right? They assemble people around them to help them learn new skills, to help them delegate new items to help elevate them and help them ultimately grow as a human and run their business. We've said it a million times, and Joe even dropped it out here. Your network is your net worth, right? It's a little cliche. I think that came from John Maxwell, but it's 100% true. The people that you surround yourself with are going to either drag you down or they're going to elevate you, and you're in control of that, right? If there's 5 millionaires standing around and you're the 6th person hanging around 5 millionaires, eventually you're going to be the 6th millionaire. But if you go hang around with 5 bums that do nothing but hang out at the bar all day, well, you're going to be the 6th bum soon enough. It just takes a little time, right? So you have to learn to build a phenomenal network of people that are around you that are going to help elevate you, help keep you on your game, and help you learn new stuff, right? one of the things that I love about having a good network, and this is the kind of a vision I want to give you. I want you to think for a minute that you're sitting in your office, your dream office, so to speak. And you have this beautiful conference room that you're sitting in. And maybe there's, 10 chairs at this conference room. You're sitting at the head of it. And all those chairs are empty currently. But I want you to think, who would be the 9 other people that you would want to sit at that conference table? If that is the conference table of your life and your business, who are the other 9 people that you would want to sit there with you? Maybe it's your wife, maybe it's your father, maybe it's your brother, maybe it's one of your coworkers, maybe it's a business colleague, maybe it's your attorney, maybe it's your CPA needs a seat at that table. But who are the people that you can assemble around you that are going to help you drive your organization forward and help you hit those big goals that you're dreaming about? Think about that. Think hard about that, actually. I don't think a lot of people put too much effort into this, and you 100% should. Think about who you need to surround yourself with that's going to help drive your organization. Who is your dream roundtable of networked individuals, the people that you want to surround yourself with? Write them down. And I would even encourage you that once you figure out who those people are, pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, man, I wanted to let you know that I really appreciate your friendship. I really appreciate the things that you bring to the table. You help me grow. You teach me things. I really value you. And if I had a dream table full of all my favorite people to help me propel myself, you're sitting at that table. And I promise you, when you talk to people in that manner and you tell them how well you appreciate them like that as being part of your network, they're going to reciprocate. They're going to feel really good about that, right? I have a partnership with Joe Camper, who you guys know, right? We hang out all the time. We do our thing. We're good buddies. Right. We have a business together now. We have a few other things that we're doing together. We run this group together, and him and I constantly talk to each other and speak into each other. Right. Joe is always telling me how great I am and how good I can do and things that I'm doing and how happy he is to be part of this relationship. I'm always doing the same thing with Joe. I'm always speaking into him, telling him he's a champion and that we're accomplishing things, that we're growing this deal. Those are the type of people you want to surround yourself with. People to speak into you, believe in you, and are going to lift you up. Because ultimately, again, I'll say it again, the network of people that you surround yourself with, they're either going to drag you down like concrete boots on your feet, or they're going to help lift you up like wings underneath your arms. So Joe did drop a question here real quick that we'll hit before we move on to the last item. But what are some things you've done to get the right people in your network? Joe, number one, you have to identify the people that you need in your network. For example, I needed a really good business attorney. And so I talked to people in the business that I trust, that I probably knew some, and I found one. And now I've got this phenomenal business attorney that knows how to set up business structures. We've become friends now. Great guy. Just a kind of example. Identify the gaps that you have in your network that you're trying to assemble. So again, if you're looking at that conference table of your life and your business, everything that you want to accomplish in the world, and you have those empty seats, who are the people that need to be in there? Identify the gaps that you have and start pulling those people into your network. Start looking for them and be very intentional about who you network with, right? Think about the people that you want to meet. And this is really true. If you go to events, you'll know who the speakers are, number one, and you'll know a lot of people are going to be in attendance. So think about like, man, I would really like to meet this person, or I would really like to meet someone that knows this topic. And then go with that to that event with that intention in your brain and go meet that person. Go find those people that have that skill set that you're trying to tackle. Go meet them, network with them, get to know them, and pull them into your circle. It's really not that difficult. So build you a great team of people around you. Build that network because, again, your network is your net worth. And then finally, the last item, the sixth item is the glue that holds everything together, right? Again, I said these are the 6 traits of what makes a successful salesperson. The first one we said was you got to have a winning attitude. The second one is you got to be a great, effective communicator. The third one, be a good student. The fourth one, you got to be a master of time management. The fifth one, you got to be phenomenal at building a network of people around you. The last one is the glue that holds them all together, and that's work ethic. If you don't have work ethic, I don't care how good of a network you are. I don't care how good you are at time management. I don't care how much you think yourself as a winner and how good you are at writing goals. If you don't have the work ethic, the rest of them are going to fall like a house of cards. 100%. Work ethic is so important it almost stands on its own. And I remember this when I was first getting into outside sales, because I had come from a world of retail and inside and showroom sales. And then when I got into outside sales, even before I got into insurance, I was terrible. And I remember the only way I could beat the other guys was to outwork them. So I just knocked on more doors, period. I'm just going to knock on more doors than you. And I will, in most cases, I was barely even hanging on, to be honest with you. Like, they were writing 10, I'm writing 10, but I'm having to see twice as many people to write my 10 pieces than they are, right? Because maybe they're a little more skilled at some of these other details. But ultimately, if you don't have a good work ethic, none of these things will matter. And a work ethic is so important that can almost stand on its own. I was listening to Brian Askins. If you guys know Brian Askins, that's Cody Askins' father, who's an incredibly impressive individual. Brian's a phenomenal guy. And I was listening to him one day talk about work ethic. And he talked about it from understanding what it's like if you look back on your life and you're like, man, this has been a great career. Or I want to look at the end of it and look back on my life and go, man, I had a great career, right? And he talked about building a great career requires work ethic, and how you do it one day at a time. You focus on it one day at a time. I just want to have a great day today. And if I can have a great day today, that means I might be able to have a great day tomorrow, but today's the one that matters first. So I'm going to work my tail off today. I'm going to have a phenomenal, very productive day. And if I can learn to have one great day of excellent productivity, strong work ethic, I work a full 8 hours, full 10 hours, whatever it is you got to do. Can you do that over and over again? Can I string together 5 or 6 successful days together? If I can do that, then I can say, hey, that's been a successful week. I've had a great week. It's been productive. I've been successful. My work ethic's been on point. Okay, well, can you do 2 weeks? Can you do 3 weeks like that? Can you do 4 weeks? If you can string 4 weeks together, you can look back and go, wow, this has been a successful month for me. Can you string 12 months together and say, hey, it's been a successful year, a lot of growth, a lot of great work ethic. I had 12 consecutive months of solid success, day after day, beating it out and moving the needle a little further. And then if you can do that year over year over year over year, eventually you can look back and go, wow, I've had a tremendously successful career. But it all boils down to your work ethic and what you do day by day, piece by piece, to build it over and over and over, like stepping stones, like I said earlier in this thing. And that's it. I'm not going to tell you guys the full story. You've heard it before, but work ethic is such an important thing in our business and sales, especially if you think about it. It's a competitive environment that we live in. A lot of you probably heard the story I tell sometimes about Wally Pipp, right? And I won't tell you the whole thing, but I'll give you the kind of the short and sweet of it. Wally Pipp was a phenomenal first baseman, played for the Yankees. He was an all-star. Phenomenal first baseman. They're starting first baseman. And then one day he's like, I don't feel so good. I think I'm going to sit down today. Well, Wally Pipp, after that day, never played first base for the Yankees again, because the guy that they let stand up and play for him while he sat on the bench with his headache was a guy by the name of Lou Gehrig. And if you know Lou Gehrig's story, you know that he was known as the Iron Horse of baseball because he didn't stop playing until he played 2,170 games straight with no days off. So Wally Pipp took one day off, and he was never the starting first baseman again for the Yankees. He was actually traded to the Cincinnati Reds the next year and forced out of baseball for what some people would say he had a poor work ethic. Now, I don't know which one of these other 5 traits Wally was good at. Maybe he had a winning attitude. Probably did if he was an all-star. I don't know if he was an effective communicator. He must have been, because he sold his coach on the idea that he had to sit down on the bench. He's like, hey, my head hurts. Just let me sit on the game. So he must have been effective. Good student? Not sure he was a good student. I don't know if I can give him that one. Was he good at time management? Maybe. It's hard to say. Did he have a good network of people around him? Well, he was surrounded by the Yankees. They were a pretty phenomenal team. But what the man didn't have was a phenomenal work ethic, because he quit on himself one day, and then he never played baseball for the Yankees again. And shortly after that was no longer even a baseball player. Meanwhile, the guy that replaced him, 7 championships, Triple Crown winner, still holds records today. He's phenomenal. Like, everybody knows who the hell Lou Gehrig is. Most people don't even know who Wally Pipp is. And that's the fact, right? If you do not have a phenomenal work ethic, the rest of these things don't matter. So I'm going to challenge you in this new year to think about these 6 traits. Think about maybe the ones that you're a little short on. Think about maybe the ones you need to put in a little harder. Think about the ones that, and be honest with yourself. Like, man, I really suck at time management. I got to get better at it. Whatever it might be, I want to challenge you to go through these, look at them, and improve on them this year. Be a good student of yourself, study your craft, get better at time management, be a better communicator. Remember that you're a winner, and set and achieve goals are going to help you discipline that winning attitude, and then back it all up with awesome work ethic. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this Tuesday training. I do want to tell you that, man, we have a severely stacked lineup for our first quarter for Tuesday training. Next week, as a matter of fact, on the 10th, we have Galen Hendricks stopping by. That's going to be for part 2 of her cancer training. I believe about her 30, 60, 90-day retention process. We've got Joanna Wyckoff coming. We've got David Carruthers coming later this month. Jesse Park is going to stop by at the end of the month. Give me a break. I don't know if you know Jesse Park, but she is an absolutely phenomenal entrepreneur, $100 million business. She's also got a perfume line. She's got a bag line. She's a painter. I think she's got clothing coming out too. Got a book out there that's Amazon bestseller. She's killing it. In February, we're not slowing it down. We got Mason Van Meter coming on. Chase McAllister's coming. Landon McCarter's going to stop by. Matt Murray's going to stop by. We've got some heavy hitters coming up. Get excited. Tuesday training is hot. I wish you guys a happy new year. I hope y'all have a phenomenal, phenomenal day today, and go out there and achieve your dreams. We'll see y'all next week. Have a good one.